what's up you guys? Century Productions here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Marvel Legends Retro Apocalypse. So I haven't done like a standard review in a very long time, probably like 5 or 6 years. I mainly do action figure displays, ACBA toy photography nowadays, but this figure was just so cool, man, that I really wanted to talk about him for a little bit, and then we're going to be putting him into display, so make sure to stick around for that. He comes with a couple accessories, as you can see here. I also want to compare him to some of the other Apocalypse figures that we've gotten over the years, and we've gotten quite a few. And the cool thing about this figure is he's kind of got like a mix and match of some pieces from the old Apocalypse, and then a couple new pieces, or I think one main new piece. But let's talk about these accessories, and I'll do some comparisons, and then we'll talk about the color and all the other stuff. So obviously he's got the 2 open hands. It's really nice that we got the 2 open hands with this one, because I don't think we've gotten a pair of open hands for an Apocalypse before. I think we got one single open hand for the AOA Apocalypse, his left hand, but it's nice to have this option. So now I can display him with the 2 open hands. I can display my 2018 Apocalypse Build-A-Figure with the 2 fisted hands, and then I'll keep my AOA Apocalypse with the 1 fisted hand and then the left open hand, so you can display the skull that came with him. But we do have options. We got the 2 fisted hands right here, and I know I was going to talk about the color later on, but I mean, look how beautiful this figure is. I mean, I love the color. I love the X-Men animated show. It's one of the most goated shows of all time, so it's awesome that we finally got this figure in that style. Obviously, it comes with a beautiful retro blister card that I opened immediately and threw away. It's got me thinking. I almost think I might want to pick up another one just to display that, but I was going to open this one regardless. So the boxes do not survive very long in my household, unfortunately. But yeah, he comes with the extra head. This head is actually the same head that we've got with the I think it was the 2018 Build-A-Figure Apocalypse, just new colors on it to match the animated style. And then on this figure, we've got the kind of newer pouty face Apocalypse, which is probably my favorite Apocalypse head. I'm not gonna lie. I like upset Apocalypse. I don't like happy, angry, or smirking Apocalypse. I like my Apocalypse to feel like a piece of shit, and this head sculpt represents that. So very nice. I like the color on the head. As you can tell, the color on the top of the head, the blue, is a little bit different than this like bluish, almost light purplish, like tealish. It's not, I guess it's like a soft blue for this part of the whole figure. And then we got this very flat purple that matches the animated feel very nicely. So the colors on this figure are fantastic. I really do like that. On the back of this figure, we've got the tubes. You know, maybe it'd be cool if they can try to like mess around with some placements of these tubes, or maybe make them bendable or something like that, because it's kind of hard to display them on your shelf. They kind of take up a decent amount of room. When I was displaying this figure on my shelf, I actually just like unattached both of these. These are detachable, obviously, and I just laid them on the ground to give me a little bit more room to push them back into other figures. I like to clusterfuck all my stuff on my shelf, so that's usually how I display everything. So I need as much room accessible as possible, and those tubes get in the way of that. But anyways, let's do some comparisons, man. I pulled out all my Apocalypses except for the Build-A-Figure Apocalypse, who's obviously towers over this one. But we've gotten quite a few, and we've got some really good ones over the years. I'm not going to pop this head on there just because the other Apocalypse already has it. But real quick, let's show him next to standard Marvel Legends Sentry, your standard 6-inch figure. You can see how he stacks up next to him right there. This is probably the greatest figure that's ever been made in the history of action figures, so if you don't have this figure, you should probably go and get it. But that's how he stacks up next to him. And then we've got right here the OG. Well, I guess he's not really the OG. I have the OG here, and I'm going to show in a second. But that's the 2018 Build-A-Figure Apocalypse. One of the greatest waves of Marvel Legends ever. It gave us that really awesome blue and yellow Wolverine. And yeah, it was just such an incredible wave. And when we got this Build-A-Figure, it was awesome. Everybody loved this Build-A-Figure, and it's still, to this day, is probably the best representation of his comic version of Apocalypse. But this retro version, obviously, but looking at both of them, you can see this one just stands out. This one's sick, dude. So, and they've been giving us a lot of retro X-Men stuff recently. It doesn't look like they're going to be giving us too much into the future, but there's a couple waves slated to come out. By looking at both of these figures, we can see that there is some very similar parts that they both have in common here. Mainly the legs, they're just color different, but looks like the sculpt is almost identical on the legs, minus these little heel things right here that are attached to his ankles. And then obviously his like gauntlets are different. These are not sculpted on though. These are movable. You can move them off if you want. The same on this figure as well. And then if we turn them around, we can see the tubes here. And the tubes are like, they're like styled a little bit differently. As you can see, these ones are a little bit more like popped out. Obviously a flatter gray. These ones are like almost designed to like sit up against something. So what I was talking about earlier about having as much room as you can to display on your shelf, if that's your style of displaying your collection, this one is actually a little bit better because it gives you a lot more room to work with. But I mean, that's just like nitpicking. I mean, if you really wanted more space, you know, you could just pull the tubes off or whatever. But you can see there's a little bit of difference in between those two tubes right there. But other than that, the legs are the same, the arms are the same. The chest is different though. And obviously the pauldrons are different. You can see these are like the black pauldrons that cover more of his elbow, and these are more like styled in the animated kind of feel. And then this chest is actually different. I just really love how this chest came out. It's just so smooth, man. I love just putting my finger right across this dude's chest. I know that sounds wrong, but it's right, trust me. Anyways, they really killed it with this little chest part right here. This has to be a brand new mold. I don't know what else they would have used this for. If they did, you know, correct me in the comments, obviously. But yeah, this looks really good. It's a little bit different than this. So pretty much the same figure, but a little different. And then over here, we've got the AOA Apocalypse, which for a long time I thought was like the coolest Apocalypse. So this is obviously from Age of Apocalypse. They did a whole series a couple years back, or maybe it was last year, I can't even remember, but they did a whole run of different figures from this storyline, and you can tell he's got the open hand right here, and he also shares a lot of similar parts. I think he has the same arms and chest as this one. I like how my hands cover and everything. Arms, chest, same as that one. They all share the same arms just by looking at all of them, but it looks like the legs are different on this one. Obviously because he's wearing boots, but I think maybe the thighs are the same. Yeah, it looks like the thighs are the same, but the bottom portion of the legs are a little bit different. But man, look at these. All within the last, what, 4 years? We've gotten 3 very different versions of this Apocalypse, and they all look fantastic. So I'm very happy with all 3 of these newer Hasbro Marvel Legends Apocalypses. Now let's go back in the day, man. Let's take a stroll down memory lane. Remember Marvel Universe? Remember that little toy line? Man, that was a cool little toy line. Didn't live too long, but we did get some really awesome figures out of it, and one of those was this Marvel Universe Apocalypse figure. And like many of the other figures that I've shown here, it has a different design. I don't really know what this design is based off of, but I really do like this this costume and how the paint is. It's got this very metallic blue, kind of like that 2018 Build-A-Figure Apocalypse version. And kind of strange articulation, but still very functional, works very well. And it's a very fun figure to play around with and pose with. And I almost feel like they should make a 6-inch version of this guy in this costume, and maybe this proportions. You can see he's a little bit chunkier, he's a little bit wider. Very cool figure. I still do really like this version of the Marvel Universe Apocalypse. And then now we're going to take an even longer stroll down memory lane. Series 7 Apocalypse. I remember back in the day when we were all collecting these, this was kind of a hard one to come across, and I think it still holds up. Obviously the articulation is a little dated by today's standards, obviously, but it had a lot going for it. It has very awesome, unique sculpt. You got all these little panel lines running down the figure right here. The tubes are pretty much like the same concept, but they're obviously in like a little bit different areas. They're kind of at the bottom of his bicep as opposed to the bottom of his elbow over here, but those are detachable as well. And overall, I think it's still a very nicely sculpted, cool figure, and it does pretty much have every piece of articulation that you would need for a action figure by today's standards, but it's just a little bit different and it's a little bit dated, but still overall it's a fun figure, man. I still really do like this figure. So overall, I think this new Apocalypse is probably my new favorite, just because I'm such a fan of the X-Men animated show, but you can't go wrong with pretty much any of these Apocalypses that I've shown here. And it's just a really fun, cool figure, and I hope they keep giving us more Apocalypses, because they always really seem to knock it out of the park with this character. So someone over at Hasbro really loves Apocalypse, and I like that. Anyways, we're gonna throw this figure into a display, and it's probably one of the most famous meme pictures of all time. It's going to be Rogue laying down with her ass exposed while Apocalypse is trying to, you know, make her scared or something, but all he did was end up making her look more hot. So we're going to jump over to that display right now. Alright, so here we got the retro Apocalypse in a little scene. I'm sure a lot of you guys will recognize this as the famous X-Men animated scene where Apocalypse is looking at Rogue and Rogue is facing him and her giant ass is exposed. Now clearly the animator in this case was a little horny, but I wanted to recreate this because, you know, this has over time become a pretty famous meme, and now that we have the screen accurate Apocalypse to depict it, I wanted to do this shot. Now lots of different people have done this shot and already with this new retro Apocalypse, but I really wanted to do it as screen accurate as I could. Now I actually did two versions of this. I did one with like you see right here, and then I did another one where I swapped their positions. So I actually had the Apocalypse laying down with his ass showing, and then I had the Rogue looking at him, and I'll show you guys that real quick right here. So yeah, I thought that was hella funny to do. I just thought no one else would have thought of doing that, but like I said, I wanted to make this as screen accurate as I could. Now, in the actual shot, I'll show you guys the reference shot right here. We can see there's like some destroyed buildings and some rubble in the background. And I was looking through all the cutouts I've made over the last like 6 months, and I found these two blue cutouts right here that kind of fit that. Now they don't really match the ground too good, but this was the best I could really come up with what I already had in my inventory. So I think for the shot it kind of works out. I think the placement, this is just my opinion and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think the placement of these two cutouts is absolutely spot on to what the original image is. We've got like some rubble in the background a little bit further out, so that's out of focus, and then we have this pillar on the right side right here that's going to be in focus with the Apocalypse. Now I kind of had to put the Apocalypse in focus rather than the Rogue here, because I didn't want to show any of the inconsistencies on the Rogue, as you can probably see right here. So we'll zoom in on the Apocalypse now. So when you zoom in on the Apocalypse, it kind of blurs out some of the inconsistencies on the Rogue cutout, but overall I think it's still a really great little cutout, and it worked really well for this scene. I kind of wanted to get that ambiance with the backlighting as far as the nighttime sky, and I just went with a light bar right underneath that, and it's kind of just really bright at the bottom and then just kind of fades out the more it goes up, and that kind of helps with the Apocalypse, because if you really put a lot of light on the background here, the Apocalypse is going to kind of blend into the background because he's purple and blue, the background's purple and blue, so you know, you just, the light being at the bottom and then it fading towards the top kind of helps the Apocalypse stand out a little bit better here, I think. But overall, I'm really pleased with myself. I think I really did a good job of recreating this shot. So I want to show you guys a different angle of this setup so you can kind of get an idea of how I set this up. So as you can see from this angle, this is just kind of a little bit further back, pulled back, and to the right a little bit. You can see that there is quite a bit of lights that have kind of been hidden or obscured by the cutouts or just kind of out of view of the camera, and this kind of helps light everything. So I'll just go through each of these one by one. So if we actually look at this cutout, I can show you guys this cutout. I got the thing's head just tacked on the back there. And basically what that does is just kind of helps me sit her and put the actual cutout facing up. And then I have these two lights. I've got a light right here and a light right here. Those are focused on the cutout to make sure that she is lit very nicely. And then we've got these two other lights right here. We got this light and this light. Now this light is to illuminate the side and the face a little bit of the Apocalypse, as well as this cutout right here, because we don't want that coming out too dark. And then this back light right here is to shine on the back of it. It's a little bit of back and side lighting of the Apocalypse, so he has a little bit of highlights on him and he stands out from the background. Then we've got this other light way back here. That's to hit the other side of the Apocalypse to give him some highlights on that side, even it out a little bit. And then if I actually go over here, there is a light right here, and that's to put some light on that cutout, so that kind of stands out a little bit. So, you know, in the actual frame, it doesn't look like there's that many lights, but there is quite a few lights. Luckily, I didn't have to put any lights on the actual background, so that saved me some space, and I was able to do some more things with the lighting and everything. And then I can't really show you from right here, but way back there's a light bar. So that illuminates the background, makes it pop up a little bit. And then you might be wondering how I have these cutouts set up, or how these are lit up. There's just a little crate right here that's tacked to the back of this cutout that helps it sit up, just like the Rogue right there. And then this actual cutout, this is kind of cool. I've never actually done this. This base right here is actually magnetized. It's two pieces and it magnetizes together. And I just kind of slipped that cutout right in between the two magnets, and it stood up and worked out really nice. So yeah, that is the whole setup for the Apocalypse shot from the meme, from the animated show. I really love this Apocalypse. Even though it is reusing quite a bit of new parts, I think it really stands out. And I mean, the animated show is just like, come on dude, it's got to be one of my favorite cartoon of all time, maybe next to Batman animated series or Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So overall, I just think this figure is awesome, definitely worth picking up. If you want to keep it in box, it's probably one of the very few figures that we're going to be able to get in the near future that has the window that you can actually see the figure in. So if you want to pick it up for that, I'm almost considering picking up a second one just so I can display that. I mean, the actual retro card and everything is huge. So anyways, definitely worth picking this figure up. I think it's fantastic. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to check out my Instagram for all my action figure shots, ACBA shots, all that good stuff. And just thanks for stopping by, guys. I really appreciate it. And yeah, this figure's dope. Definitely check it out. Definitely get it. Let's check out this picture real quick.